people that are involved in the shooting from overnight in Dallas. Prior to this, 5 officers killed, 7 injured. Well, that's what it looks like right now, according to the mayor's office. 5 officers killed, 7 officers injured, 2 civilians also wounded in the ambush, according to the mayor there, Mike Rawlings, who we said earlier. Mike Rawlings is a local guy. He grew up here in central New York, in Liverpool, in the Syracuse area, and was educated here, and then actually had business ties here, and then moved to Dallas, and is now the mayor of Dallas. You're going to see a lot of him over the course of the next few days. Lieutenant Steve Houck in studio here right now. So let's talk Dallas first. This is kind of unprecedented. This might be one of the worst cases, if not the worst case we've ever seen, where police officers were targeted.
I think they're saying it's the deadliest American law enforcement since 9/11. So, that's part of the problem with law enforcement is that, we're very visible.
Right.
And it wouldn't take much to figure out where the cops are going to be. So if you wanted to do harm, it would be fairly easy to do.
And there had to be planning here. I mean, they were on top of buildings. This planning might have come before Baton Rouge in Minnesota.
I suspect what you're going to find is there's going to be some former military training in some of the people involved.
I feel the same way.
They fired from an elevated position.
They had to know what they were doing.
They on top of the armament, they fired from an elevated position, which. Obviously the police weren't anticipating violence here because they would have taken care of those positions.
Sure.
So, and from all accounts that we've heard so far is that it was very peaceful. So
it was. Although some people have tried to say that the two were tied together. I don't know how that would be. You'd be a sitting duck if you were a protester to lure police in. I mean, that's stretching a little bit. So the protesters were there to lure police in so the snipers could shoot them. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you. Not to say that,
it's possible.
If you had 1,000 people there, that there couldn't be somebody that was complicit in it. But I agree with you. It doesn't sound to me like this was any planned sort
It
of
sounds
thing
like these guys, but it does seem calculated and planned on the sniper's part, and I agree with you. There's got to be some training there. They knew what they were doing.
Sure, and I think you've probably by now seen the one video of the shooter shooting from behind the concrete pillar on the ground. It sounds like they were firing from multiple positions again, which would indicate that they have some sort of training or at least coordination prior to the shooting happening.
Worry about our police forces needing to be throughout the country today, needing to be on standby, on heightened alert.
Well, I think you have to. I think most law enforcement, unfortunately, we're becoming more accustomed to this sort of stuff, and you do across the country. You're a little bit more heightened of awareness about where you are and what you do and where you move. Again, we drive marked police cars in uniform. It's easy to find us. So if you really wanted to do them harm, it wouldn't take much.
One of the things that all of these seem to have in common, though, is the sitting duck theory. You take a look at what happened in Orlando. Completely different. But there in Orlando, there was an armed guard police officer at the door, completely not expecting this, and was surprised, and then soft target inside the club. You remember the story of the 2 reporters that were along the side of the road doing a report. Out of nowhere, somebody shoots them. Each of these cases, they all seem to be just people that are out in a very soft target situation, and they're sitting ducks. And in a free society, there are many of those targets. We could not protect all of the targets.
No, not possible. And when you have cowards like that just use someone's vulnerability because of the type of society we live in, they're cowards. That's what they are. Yeah, that's how they act.
Anything further on Dallas? Obviously, at this point, the details are just coming out. Do you think the rhetoric could have played a role? I mean, you have the Minnesota governor. I heard what Obama said. I don't quite agree with you. I know that he made reference that something has to be, I forget his exact wording, but it was when the governor came out of Minnesota, he was direct, saying that this action, the police shooting, the people would be alive if they were white. His second statement was that he called the shooting by the police officer a racist action. I don't know how he could make that statement as governor.
That's the thing
that is the most irresponsible thing I've ever heard.
It is irresponsible, and it really, to me, he's pandering. That's not to say that the officer maybe did everything wrong.
Right.
But how do you know that?
Yeah.
And especially the one in Minnesota, because the video doesn't show any of the incident. It shows the aftermath.
We know the aftermath.
Right.
And listen, you're hearing from the girlfriend, her statement. If what she says is true, that's terrible. It never should have happened. But
maybe it's 100% true.
But we don't know at this point.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
And especially,
But for the governor to come out and make a statement like that.
People in power, politicians, words really do matter. And what you say makes a difference to people.
Listen, haven't we heard it all along about Donald Trump? The things he says, it does matter.
Sure.
And it's dangerous. And the things that it inspires people who are crazed and irresponsible. The same thing holds true here. How can this governor criticize Donald Trump for his statements, and he comes back and walks it right in with a comment like that? I don't understand it.
Well, I think it's and it's not to hold politicians' feet to the fire, because certainly we've seen locally we have some great politicians here. So it's not to say that they're all bad or their profession is bad or anything like that. But there are many that the only thing they're concerned about is a second term or a third term or a fourth term.
Sounded like what he was doing yesterday.
And that's the thing, is that maybe the cop was 100% wrong, but let's find out a little something here, and then make that determination.
He easily could have come out and said, "Listen, we are going to get to the bottom of this. We will make the proper actions. If something was done inappropriately, the penalty will be severe. We're going to look into this, but we have to be patient." That's really what he needed to say.
Right. In law enforcement, we do that. Unfortunately in Utica, we've seen officer-involved shootings, and we're very careful when we talk publicly about. Even though we have a lot more information than we share initially, because the investigation's going on, we have to be very careful about what we say publicly. Although the chief obviously wants to get out there and support his officers, and when you've got video that supports, hey, the cop did everything right, we've talked about it. Say, listen, we have to do an investigation. We can't make a determination to say the cop was right 100% without all the information. We can go by what we've seen so far and say, geez, all indications are that this was justified, but you don't know if it was or wasn't. You don't know that until you take the time to do the investigation.
Can I make one clarification for the Trump people messaging in right now, ripping on me? Shut up. Listen, did you not hear what I said? Listen carefully. I'll speak slowly so you all can understand. How can this governor criticize Donald Trump for the words he uses, which are dangerous, yet he comes back and says what he said yesterday? If you really think about it, I was just defending Donald Trump, you moron. I got 5 messages instantly just because I mentioned Donald Trump. How could you say that about Donald Trump? It's not his fault. He had nothing to do with it. Oh, my Lord. That's funny.
All right, so let me say this about Donald Trump now that you're talking about it. I think the one thing about him is, because he's not a politician or career politician or ever done it for a living.
Yes.
I think maybe he doesn't quite understand the gravity of what he says. I think all of us, if you think about
But the governor
yourself,
should.
The governor certainly should. But if you think about some of the things you've maybe thought or said privately, he says them publicly. And I think he's starting to learn that as a candidate, he can't do that because people pay attention to everything he says. And even though you might feel it in the heat of the moment, which we've all done, he's quick to say it, where I think he's starting to realize that, wait a minute, I can't do that. I need to sort of parse my words a little bit and take into account the gravity of what he says. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. I think some of the things he says are very good. Some of the things he says are not, and I think they're said in the heat of the moment. Right. And that's the thing he's got to realize, is that he can't do those things. He has to back off a little bit.
We'll talk more about, let's move from Dallas, but let's talk now about Minnesota and Baton Rouge. Minnesota, I don't think we can comment on Minnesota in terms of who's right and who's wrong. Yet we have no idea. There's no video showing anything. And even if there was video, we've learned that the video always doesn't show everything. So putting Minnesota aside, Baton Rouge, you saw the gunshot. You saw it right there on TV. Was the cop justified in killing that man? We'll come back, and I want your professional opinion on that one when we come back here. Hold tight. 821 at WIBX.